Hello, everybody. It's Friday. Welcome to Drop In with Chanti on both Error and Solutions and Rumble, I believe. And yeah, welcome. Decided to do some Friday afternoon or whatever it is for you, whatever time of the day. I think for most Americanos, it's probably in the middle of the night. So you're probably mostly sleeping. Maybe the last awake. Who knows? But anyway, welcome. It's so good to see you. Hello, Kyle. And nice to see you. Yeah. Oops. My ring light's getting flying. Yeah. And yay, great. Thank you, Pharaoh White. So appreciate you joining our membership. Really appreciate you and welcome to the Arrow Tribe. Yay. So looking forward to having some future shows. But hang on, I want to just actually mention, actually, I'm not going to do the announcements today, but just to let you guys know, for those of you pop that up for coming up on Wednesday. Let me just check. Gary Wayne, actually on the other one, sorry. It's actually on Aquarius Rising. But Gary Wayne has got a book club for us solutions as well as Arrow Patreons. Well, solutions and Arrow Patreons, yes, that anyway goes with Patreon, but with the members, membership as well. So you guys are welcome to join us on. Oh, there he is. Yes, you see. Hello, Gary. It's wonderful when you have magic working in the back, right? Thank you, Monet. So, good morning, Jeannie. Good morning, Marissa. Good morning, Kyle. So good to have you all there. Yes, so Gary Wayne Book Club with us on Wednesday night, sorry, the 15th, 19th of November. I'm so sorry. 19th of November, Gary Wayne Book Club. He's going to be doing Genesis 6 Part 2. We're going to be doing it on Patreon. So for the members who would like to join, you can send us an email. I know Morna has given you guys the details for this. Just wait to send your email and your membership or your handle, your YouTube handle, so we can add you to the book club. I hope you guys join us. It's going to be great fun. Yay! So today I thought there's so much going on in Africa at the moment. And I thought today I would just like literally do a little bit of a drop in and I'm not going to go into hectic detail, guys. There's so much history and stuff. I mean, I think most of us understand Africa has a very checkered history with the West. And what's happening now basically is a lot of the African countries are saying, screw you. We are taking back our resources, we are taking back our power, and we are taking back our sovereignty. So I think I want to just pop through a couple of these as well. And I think the one that we've been dealing with, or the one that's probably the most popular at the moment, is Burkina Faso. And that would be the guy you can see there, Ibrahim Traore. He's the leader. He's a youngster. He's in his early 30s, about 34, 35 now. And basically, I mean, I think towards the end of 23, they started their deals with France, etc. In fact, yeah, I'm actually going to read this because I don't want to miss out anything. So I'm actually going to read this. Burkina Faso has become one of the strongest symbols of African sovereignty on the rise. A massive people's uprising in October 2014 forced President Blaise Compaoré to resign after 27 years in power, ending an era of political stagnation. And I want to just say, if we look at it like that, we have to understand that at that stage as well, there was strong colonial influences, and they really did have the African people under very strong grips there. Anyway, after years of insecurity and frustration with foreign military solutions, sorry, let me just say that again. After years of insecurity and frustration with foreign military solutions, the transitional and later military governments pivoted sharply. In January 2023, they ended the defense agreement with France and by February, all French troops had left. Together with Mali and Niger, Burkina Faso helped form the Alliance, or the Confederation of Sahel States, a regional project built on self-reliance instead of foreign intervention. Their coordinated withdrawal from ECOWAS in January 2025 was framed as a watershed moment, a break from systems they viewed as neo-colonial and unaccountable to the people. And I really actually love, I'm just going to pop him off here for a minute. I really actually love that. However, what I've read about lately, and also something he was saying that was really cool, was that he especially didn't want his military trained by foreign military. Now, a lot of the time in Africa, the African, and especially South Africa, but also a lot of the other African countries, their militaries has been outsourced to the communist states, like Russia, mainly Russia. Russia was training our the ANC military in Contra with Siswe in the 80s and 70s. And I mean, there's pictures of Putin and the guy that's in charge now, Cyril. There's pictures of them together in their like military regalia. So yeah, you know, there's always been strong communist influence in Africa, strong colonial influence in Africa, and it's just gotten worse and worse and worse as time has gone by. So of course Traore said enough already, and has now started training their own military, becoming a lot more self-sufficient. I mean, they are extremely resourceful in gold, and recently put a stop on, I think it was some $18 billion gold consignment that was going to the US because of some visa fiasco. And he's just putting his foot down saying, screw you. If we can't go into the US without visas, you've got to get visas to come into my country too. So he's put that in place, as well as I think Namibia is another country that did that recently. But what really concerns me is that I've recently read and heard that he has now outsourced security, right? He's to China. So the Chinese are now installing surveillance systems in Burkina Faso. Now, for me, that is like, what the hell, man? What the hell? What does that actually mean? Okay. Does that mean that now Burkina Faso is becoming the first African country that is fully under Chinese surveillance? What does that mean? And of course, you know, I go onto these sites and these shows or these social media sites where I'm reading the stuff, and of course I'm joining in on the comments. But of course, unfortunately, my pale face doesn't make me very popular mostly. And I can understand that. No, I'm not throwing any shade. I can really understand the frustration of the African people. But for me, I'm saying, okay, so now you've gotten rid of one parasite, the colonialists, as you call them, the parasites, cool. But now you've made way for another parasite. So one comment back to me was, they called it, well, rather we're getting rid of the over parasite, whatever that is, and the under parasite is better. So there seems to be the general consensus there that China is the under parasite, and it's better than the over parasite, which are the colonizers, right? Because they've never colonized the country, according to what the African people are saying. I'm seeing in a lot of the comments, China has never colonized the country. They've never had slavery. Well, I'm going to definitely not agree with that. All you have to do is look in the amount of child slavery that happens in Asia and all over the East. It's actually on another level. But if you've watched any of my shows with Jamie, you're going to know that everything on this planet is master, slave, slave, master anyway. We are all slaves to a system until we choose to get out of the matrix. But anyway, so that is my concern with Burkina Faso, Because does that mean that they are now becoming the first country in Africa that is fully under surveillance from the Chinese? Does that mean now digital ID and that sort of stuff starts occurring there? You get rid of one evil to make place for another. That to me does not make sense. And I'm concerned about that because I'm saying, and what I'm seeing a lot in the comments with African people from all different countries in Africa, when they're commenting on these stories, they are so in support of this because they're seeing Traore as a real hero and a savior. Now, again, I have concerns about that because hasn't that happened in the past? Look what happened with Nelson Mandela, right? Look what happened with Nelson Mandela. And now we've come to the biggest shock of our lives, realizing it never was Nelson Mandela to begin with, right? Never was Nelson Mandela. Gibson Makanda, the Zimbabwean. I mean, he played the role of Mandela. Mandela died in jail. That was literally the start of the Mandela effect. That's when the Mandela effect literally came into effect. So has Africa not learned that you don't give your power away to one person and that you never make one person a god? And that for me is concerning when it comes to Burkina Faso. I like what he's saying. I like what he's implementing. I always have an issue with a military regime. I have to say, anyone who's so hectically, with a military regime happening, that concerns me a lot. And of course, this whole surveillance to China. Anyway, I just want to check to see in the comments. I can't really see you, see the guys in the comments because I've got the pictures up. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Yeah, it's so true. It's the testing ground for the final world rollout. Lisa, you're right about that. So, again, this brings me to what I always say is no matter what's happening in the world, we really, really, really have to practice discernment. No one person is here to save our asses. That for me is a given. It's not going to happen. Worries me with Traore because it's almost like he's becoming the Trump of Africa. Now, I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm not. This is me speculating. This is me sitting, hanging out with you guys and drinking too much tea. And hopefully I won't spill any today. But that's just my thoughts. I would love to actually hear what you guys think of this because I know, there's been a lot of, the more I hear from, especially my American viewers who email me and speak to me about Africa, a lot of people in America didn't seem to understand what really is happening. And I'm not surprised. I'm not throwing shade, don't get me wrong. I'm not surprised because I think the news has been so obscured when it's come to news on Africa, and yeah, the tea, Lisa. So it's good to see what's happening. Africa is not the way they've painted it. It really isn't. It's very different to what you guys have probably seen in the world. But anyway, so the next one is Mali. This is another country in Africa that is absolutely saying no more. They're just kind of like, and I'm just going to give you the short and sweet of this here. Mali pushed out foreign armies, ended UN oversight, and declared its right to stand alone, even leaving the ICC to reclaim its future, basically. Mali aligned with Burkina Faso and Niger to build the new Sahel Alliance, and in January 2025, all three countries formally left ECOWAS, and by September 2025, they also withdrew from the International Criminal Court, declaring they would no longer accept what they call externally politicized judicial pressure. Mali's stance has become a rallying point for continental discussions on sovereignty. And again, it really is pretty much the same thing. I mean, if we're looking at there again, there's always a military involved. Africa loves militaries as well. Every country loves their military. It's not unique to Africa. But again, they're saying no more. And it's young people, it's the youngsters. It's the youngsters that are actually overthrowing the governments. And they are the ones that are saying no more. And that's actually really cool. When we're looking at, we always have a bit of a laugh, don't we? At what is it? Gen Z, or what is this new generation? I know I'm not a baby boomer. I'm the one after the baby boomers. Baby boomers are cool, I'll have you all know. Had it not been for the baby boomers, we would not be here right now. That's for sure. Anyway, so the next one is just Nigeria or Niger. And this is super, super interesting, because Nigeria actually is the cornerstone. It was once seen as the cornerstone of Western influence in the Sahel, experienced a dramatic shift when the presidential guard overthrew President Mohamed Bazoum in July 2023. So again, all these old dictators are going out. It also ordered all French troops to leave, all Chinese troops to leave as well. And then in 2024, it hosted, the signing of the Sahel Confederation with Mali and Burkina Faso. So, I mean, these guys are they're taking control, and I like it. And Nigeria, we all of us here, when we think of Nigeria, we think about drug dealers and child traffickers. And absolutely, I'm not going to deny that is true hugely here in Africa as well. I mean, if you go, especially the bigger cities, there are not many Nigerians that live around here. But what I've heard is if you want drugs, you go to the Nigers. Everyone knows that. But the country, which is actually interesting, is so incredibly placed on spiritual gateways and portals. So it's the same as Zimbabwe, ex-Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, right? The spiritual connection with these countries in Africa is huge. And this is where we're seeing the biggest wars, right? We're seeing in these countries actually the biggest claims on resources and stuff like that. So it's very, very, very interesting when we look at these African countries and we're looking at the ley lines on which they're placed, right? And the resources that they have and who's in control. And isn't it interesting that it's always the French? The French are always there. And I'm just going to go through this again quick. The same thing with Ghana. Ghana is very much gold or oil. They're rich in gold and oil, right? So the government has year after year sold them out for gold and oil, for resources. But again, we know that the only people getting rich are the governments, right? And that's the same thing in Ghana. The Ghanaian people are actually very, very peaceful people, very amazing people from Ghana. A lot of witchcraft there, I got to tell you. A lot of witchcraft. There's very powerful witchcraft stems from Ghana as well. And what I love here is saying about Tanzania. Now, guys, if you remember correctly, John Magufuli was the president of Tanzania when COVID started. He was actually the president. And he refused to accept the jab. And he was one of the African leaders that was mysteriously unalived. So that's Tanzania. And I'm very, very happy to see that the Tanzanian people are actually standing up and overthrowing their traitors, really. And then, of course, the last one that is just here right now is Nepal. And Nepal obviously is not Africa, right? That's actually where the Dalai Lama is from, by the way, if you guys didn't know. And that's very interesting because the Dalai Lama is from Nepal. And the youngsters from Nepal, how long ago was it? I think maybe 2 months now. I think the Nepalese have started standing up, the youngsters as well. And I'm actually just looking for their hashtags here. They actually did a whole thing. The new generation rises to reshape the republic. Yeah, they overthrew and they actually unalived the president or the prime minister's wife in Nepal. But this has been under Chinese regime, not Nepal. That's more Tibet, but they're right next to each other. There's parts of Nepal that belong to the Chinese, that's for sure. I don't remember exactly which ones. But we're looking at a lot of the Chinese stuff here. Chinese controlling Nepal. I want to just actually read this. In 2025, younger generations launched their own wave of protest under hashtags such as Nepo babies, targeting corruption, hereditary privilege, and unaccountable elites. Nepal today stands as a vibrant example of society still in the process of arising, not through military force, but through continuous civic pressure, generational activism, and a demand for integrity in public life. I love that. Integrity in public life. That's exactly what it has to be, because it's one thing that they show you the face of the world, right? And there's another thing, what they actually do behind closed doors. And I mean, that's just really kind of like what's happening at the moment here. And I also see in the rest of the world, though, there's a huge clampdown. And another thing I wanted to mention, actually, was in Canada this week, they culled all those ostriches. Some of those birds were like 35 years old, and they just slaughtered them. Now, why I specifically mentioned that was because those ostriches came from South Africa, actually. And I watched a podcast last night, and it just mentioned briefly, and I was actually trying to get hold of the guy, but I haven't been able to get hold of him yet, where there's a ostrich mafia in South Africa that control, obviously, the entire global operation of ostriches. I had no idea that that's happening. And those ostriches were saved. They got those ostriches from South Africa. Those ostriches were taken from South Africa to Canada. And they managed to get them somehow, and I'm not sure of the story. This is just the snippet I heard. Out from underneath the paws of whoever was controlling the ostrich industry here. Now, we can ask why, and I see your question there, Lisa D. There was no reason to do it. There was absolutely no reason to do it. But Canada right now is one of those countries that is hugely under attack. Big, big, big time. Again, it's divide and conquer. Again, it's divide and conquer. It's the absolute, they want us to argue. It is such a gruesome, grotesque thing for the public just to witness, right? But in reality, if we're honest, that's what happens in slaughterhouses, right? We've got to be honest with ourselves, yeah? So maybe it's a good thing we saw that. I don't know why they did it. And I mean, I know they were talking about all sorts of diseases and what have you, but there was no reason in my opinion, on a physical level. No. But spiritually, it's about divide and conquer. It's about loose harvesting. It's about being as grotesque as what they can to upset us, get us fighting again. This is what's happening right now. And we really just have to stick together. It's crucial times. And it's gross what's happening in the world. And I have to say, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely looking more into that. So I'll be coming back more with some stories of those ostriches. But ostriches are like, they're cryptids, right? They like dinosaurs. They're ancient creatures on this earth. They really are the only bird that can't fly, actually. So there's something very unique about them spiritually and energetically as well. And that's what I want to look into. And I actually want to get back to that because, when we're looking on solutions, we're going to be seeing nowadays, I'm looking a lot more at the spiritual understanding of why these things are going down, why this happens. So please join us on Solutions if you haven't, because definitely we're looking at more of the spiritual stuff as well. And if you haven't watched the show from Tuesday with Beverly yet on Oscar Pistorius and Reva Steenkamp, please watch that. Very cool. Called the new series called Spiritual Forensics. So Beverly and I are using our spiritual lights to shed truth and bring some truth and understanding on what these topics are about. Anyway, there is actually one other thing. You all have heard me bitch and moan about what's happened in Swaziland, right? With the prisoners being offloaded here. Right. Okay, let me tell you guys what's happening with this. Again, I want to just say it has nothing to do with what nationality we are. We are all human beings. This is not about, thanks, Monet. This is not about Americans and South Africans or Chinese, and it's about the governments that have all colluded together and created horrific atrocities and are absolutely terrorizing us to the nth degree. But you heard me speak about how the American government has offloaded, the Trump administration has offloaded hardcore prisoners here in South Africa. Not South Africa, sorry, Africa. Eswatini, which was Swaziland, it's now been renamed to Eswatini, is the one country. They have delivered already 5 hardcore prisoners. We're talking rapists, we're talking child rapists, we're talking, and they're all from foreign countries. So they're from countries like, I'm just trying to find it here. Let me just find it here. Laos, I can't remember exactly the countries, but I'm going to find it here, sorry. But basically, it's foreign prisoners in America that have committed heinous crimes, that there's some agreement that they all have amongst each other that they can now they can drop off their prisoners in Africa. So they've dropped off 5. In October, they dropped off a second load of prisoners in Eswatini. There's going to be a total of 160. There we go. Eswatini agreed to accept up to 160 third country deportees. In other words, individuals not originally from the US. The US agreed to pay Eswatini $5.1 million in compensation tied to the acceptance of this. The first group arrived on 16 July 2025. 5 men from Vietnam, Jamaica, Laos, Cuba, and Yemen were deported to Eswatini. Later in October 2025, an additional 10 deportees arrived via a second flight. Now, this is our neighbor, right? This is our neighbor. So right now, the Estatuni's court system is being used to challenge the legitimacy of the deal. It's not a legitimate deal. The American government went behind and took all sorts of loopholes to do this, right? And one of the men, actually, one high-profile case from El Salvador, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, was reportedly scheduled for deportation to Estatuni, but the Estatuni said no, because the US had not even asked for permission for him to come. So they were taking chances and just sending whatever prisoners they could. Now, Estatuni that's ex-Swaziland. It has its own sovereign monarchy, which is not very transparent as it is. It doesn't answer to anyone. It already has a whole lot of human rights atrocities happening there. So they have now somehow made a deal with these guys for 160 prisoners to come into Africa, giving one man, one monarchy, $5.1 million to do so. Now, I'm sorry, anyone who thinks that's okay, by any means, I have a big issue with. Because to use that kind of leverage over people that are clearly disadvantaged, much more disadvantaged than what you are, and know full well what your dollar means to them. Now, to use that as leverage in a third world country where the monarchy is not sovereign, the people have no voice as it is, it's a quiet, small kingdom, that's what you're doing. And that's now not only happening in Estatuni, but in, I think, Sudan as well. This is going to be happening over the next few years. Africa is going to be collecting hardcore prisoners from America, paying corrupt officials or leaders so that they can have a better life. That's what's happening here. So that's the problem that I have with that. Because it's not only for the prisoners, because no matter what, I think everyone deserves human rights, right? Everyone deserves to have human rights, no matter what. It's for the people in the prisons, that's what I'm talking about, that it's not a high security prison to begin with. So already there are prisoners in there, typical African style, that have now got these monsters as well. These prisons are overloaded. The court system is a joke, but yet the king of Estatuni is getting rich on the American dollar so that we, the African people, can just have America's shit, pretty much. We're just a sewer system here. Yeah. Now, anyone who thinks that's okay, I'm sorry, I don't. And on that note, let us play something mildly funny. So I actually came across this the other day as well, Africa. It's quite funny because it was advertising these cute little baby cap things, right? That you wash your hair with.
Africa!
That is so cute. And I tell you what, it really is like that. Those African mamas, that's exactly how they bath their babies. And those poor kids, they can't even see out of their faces, out of their eyes with all the soap in there. But nonetheless, anyway, that was fun. Okay, guys, I've really enjoyed hanging out with you and just giving you a few little updates on Africa. If in any way, wherever you are in the world, you have some stuff that you want to just have us pop in here on a Friday, just a quick drop in with Chanti, let us know. And I will pop that up. And, as I said, it's not entirely like we're researching everything. That's also for you guys to do if it tickles your fancy, to delve a little bit deeper. But yeah, other than that, what happens later today? I'm not sure, actually. I think we might have a show later today. Definitely. Check the schedule. And yes, I will see you guys actually back on Monday. And you're welcome, honey. And see you guys back on Monday with Beverly Rhodes. Have a fantastic weekend. Oh, Beverly Rhodes on Monday. We're looking into the Royals, Harry, Meghan, and what's happening there. And that's actually very interesting. Why Harry and Meghan are exiled or something, what I've been listening to. And even the palace seems to be questioning their two babies, like, show us the birth certificates of your children. Whose body did they come out of? Wow. So tune in on Monday night with Beverly Rhodes for that. Okay, guys and girls, as always, it's awesome to hang out with you and enjoy the rest of your day. And I shall see you very, very, very soon. Take good care. God bless you all. Mwah.